reorganization letter. January 9th, 07, reorganization letter. October 23rd, 07, reorganization. January 15th, 08, reorganization. June 25th, 08, reorganization. July 29th, 08, reorganization. July 31st, 08, reorganization. Outlining every job, again, approved by at least 2 budgets through the confirmation process, and never a word that there was something wrong with these. Also all included in the original transition team documents.
Mayor, I'm going to say this, and Ms. Donica there can verify the statement. I was asked, did I know if Mr. Foster was on the payroll? My reply was no. Am I right, Ms. Donica? I did not know that Mr. Foster was hired. I did not know that. Lewis J. Marshall did not know that.
And no one is suggesting
And
he did.
so, wait, you just inferred that when you saying about your papers that you've sent down here. I did not know that Mr. Foster was an employee of the city of Alexandria at $80,000 a year.
Mr. Foster is being paid in a line item that is the line item for the policy manager at $75,000 a year. He's in the line item, he's being paid, and that is completely up to the administration and not up to the president of the city council. And indeed, we have the right in an existing and funded budgeted line item to do that under the charter, and you are prohibited by the charter from interfering. And I would ask that the assistant city attorney speak to that if I'm in error.
Let me say,
No,
before
we're not getting in the contest there, man.
To avoid a lot of confusion, I was under, and let me finish, Harry. I was under the impression the last time we met on this issue that there was a sense of urgency because we needed to get these folk on payroll. I think something was implied to that impact that, as a matter of fact, that they were out of jobs. During the entire conversations, no one, to my knowledge, on the council knew, and I do think it's courteous, if not appropriate, to let the governing body of the city know when you're hiring mayoral assistants, whether it's an $80,000 line item, just as it would be appropriate if we would decide to remove those items out of the budget. We certainly would want to let you know. So I think what we are dealing with here is a lack of communication. I think we need to get it done. But anytime we hire a mayoral assistant at $80,000, I would like to know, and I think everybody up here would like to know.
He was put on in a temporary capacity, and that's done all the time without the council's knowledge. There are temps hired all of the time. It was legal the way it was done. There are 35 pages here of information on what we do. This reorganizational process has been meticulously documented. And ladies and gentlemen, each of the letters there request, please, council, get involved with this. Tell us what you think about the reorganization. Over and over and over, and no response until 2 weeks ago.
I still say, in view of this, we're not going to resolve anything today. I'm asking that those 2 suggestions that may be followed. They have all week to work it out and come back next week and see if we can reach an intelligent, amicable conclusion and go on to something else.
And I would only ask that we actually have a meeting, because you say, let's come back in 2 weeks, but no questions were asked in the last 2-week period of us.
I have questions, and I have questions of 2 of your employees who participated in the process, but neither 2 are here, and they knew we had a meeting schedule. And they knew they had a meeting schedule.
Who is that?
They weren't going to be here. The city attorney as well as the chief executive officer.
They're out of.
Well, why would they schedule a meeting knowing they're going to be out of town? And we particularly had issues with things they were responsible for. Why would they
for the
not speak
legal
up then?
officer and the chief of staff?
Did they not participate in the process?
Yes, but
And they knew they were going to be out of town.
Mr. Lawson, it is not up to you to direct my staff. It's up to me, sir, according to the charter. And I'm here and prepared to answer any question this council has, including comparing the LMA salaries, which place us in the mid-average, but it places our city council, ladies and gentlemen, second highest in the state. According to the LMA reported stats, it doesn't mean every city reports. I want to make that clear. Second highest, beat by Lafayette, which is a city parish government and has almost 3 times as many people.
It's simply amazing how you would try to
Mr. Marshall. Mr. Marshall.
deviate from the issue at hand.
The issue at hand was paid.
Mr. Johnson.
Just two things. I just like to confirm that I was too unaware that Mr. Foster was on the payroll for the city. And I also would like to have this question addressed. Was there anything to the matter that if this council didn't confirm Ms. Seastrunk or Mr. Foster, that other employees would be fired by the administration?
I've never spoken with a councilman about firing somebody because of hiring, but again, it is completely within my prerogative to hire and fire at-will employees who serve at the mayor's pleasure, and it is none within your authority to do so.
No, I'm just
Mr. Johnson.
questioning the matter if, in threatening this council upon confirming the hiring or confirmation of those two individuals with other employees. That's just a direct question to you. I didn't say it was my
Okay.
prerogative to
And
answer.
there's
I'm just asking the administration.
One discussion was had about employees, and that was me and Mr. Lawson. Mr. Lawson expressed concern about any potential for overlap on the diversity officer, the workforce development officer, and an HR position currently handled by Sheila McGuire, which is called the EEOC office. We had a very brief discussion about that, and we talked about could two jobs serve those three. And I agreed that perhaps collapsing some duties could be done, and I also informed Mr. Lawson that we would be moving Ms. McGuire, Sheila, back under HR, where I think it belonged in the first place, and it would probably tend to resolve some of those issues. And other than that discussion, I'm not aware of what you're talking about, Mr. Johnson.
Right, I go with Mr. Silver's recommendation.
I'll go back.
That we go ahead and try to work this out.
Today is Tuesday. You mentioned about timing. Let's plan that we can have a definite response by next Tuesday's meeting. That means you fellows have to get together, and plus the administration. I move that, and let's go on.
All right,
Moves.
I second.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is item number 4.
To hear from the administration concerning the proposed tax reallocation vote.
Mr. President, Mr. Lawson is Chair of Finance. It is our recommendation. I've given you each a document, Mr. Marshall, that shows the work that's been done. It's very concise, only 2 pages. I just spoke with Mr. Saspiva, who acts in the capacity of the city attorney, I believe, to Ball. The mayor is here. I think they're here just not to talk on it, but just to listen to our deliberation. This document lays out the philosophy, the assumptions and policy considerations for us, and then what the administration was working on in terms of a proposal. Again, Mr. Lawson and I had talked about some of these things together in trying to formulate a fair policy. I know that probably the officials in Ball to some extent, and some of you have expressed concern. The folks from Ball expressing concern. They want to get this done, and you guys want to make sure it's all done correctly. What I have suggested to Mr. Silver before the meeting was that he talk to you, Mr. Lawson, as finance chair, about holding some type of public meetings. I would suggest 2 in finance committee. Perhaps, Mr. Marshall, at the next meeting. If you want to have it separate, that's fine, but allow the public a 10-minute window at least 2 times to come to meetings after they're well advertised, and allow Alexandrians to weigh in on the tax policy. I've made clear in this document, which is a public record, what we feel like. I want to make sure that everyone listening knows that we have moved away from the original concerns that led to both sides getting into this and throwing their stats out. We are talking about a township that was not included and now is incorporated for some years. No one's talking about retroactive money, Mr. Marshall, or anything else, and that's all outlined for the public in this document. Ball wants to join as an incorporated body in the tax, and what they're seeking really is that there be a reallocation after a new vote, which would simply be a rededication, and count them as they were. I believe, and I'm not speaking from being told this by anybody, but if you follow the newspaper, I'm sure the jury is going to be concerned, Mr. Lawson, about any potential loss with some of the other items they're facing with the school board. I would imagine that's going to come up, but I want to stress again that to The only way to make the city of Alexandria carry this for everybody and make it where the majority of townships, villages, and municipalities don't lose would be to either treat Alexandria arbitrarily or put some of the burden on the jury, because they are not paying for Ball's. In other words, they handle the unincorporated areas. Ball is now incorporated, so we do think that if there's a sliding scale, they have to weigh into that. And so if the public would, I think the right thing to do is to allow them to come in. And then I think, Mr. Lawson, that you and I should co-chair probably one town hall meeting, a larger meeting where everybody can come and discuss this. And these are suggestions. I know it's wholly within your authority to make that decision, but that's what we would suggest.
I think
at this
Roy
time.
would rather that he chair the meeting.
I think he's wondering why we need a meeting.
Mayor?
Yes.
What part in these meetings would the police jury play? Because I think they still have to bless this in order for it to fly. Am I not correct?
I do. I think they've set up a process, and this suggestion is really about, at some point, I was under the authority of this council meeting with them to go through ideas. I believe we're at a point where this body, without regard to other bodies, must consider what's best for its constituents, and I think that we're at a point where we can do that, and that's not any offense to Ball or anything. It's just, it's proper policy at this point for us to decide as a city what we're going to recommend, and I would be uncomfortable going past this document without your input as a council. And Harry, it's spelled out pretty clearly in this. One of the things we bolded on page 2 was all of the entities wish to leave the school board's allocation the same. No one wants to tamper with the school board in anything. But each time you make a protection for one, it has to come from somewhere in a sense. And I think that Roy's original plan, the air, land, and sea plan he had originally, was that would come from Alexandria. I think that we're trying to work through that, and Roy has been very helpful. He's fought this for his citizens for many, many, many years, and that's where we are. I stated in it, Mr. Silver, the 1972 population of Ball seemed a logical starting point, and there were several challenges to a reallocation, but if you look at 1972, Ball's incorporated at that point. That would be what we would start, Mr. Lawson, as their population to determine what portion they get. I want to make sure the folks at home don't misunderstand. It doesn't mean we're going back to 1972 and paying money back. It means that's what we would freeze frame and then look at to determine what they would have gotten in an allocation had they been involved at the time. And so, again, this is a suggestion from us. We think we vetted out most of the challenges legally and otherwise to it. This seems to be a workable document, although we don't have all the particulars in place. I think the public and other officials, really, Mr. Lawson, the other folks involved in this 1 cent tax ought to come forward at those meetings and tell us what they think.
Well, I would recommend, first I compliment you on the work you've done so far. I think it's important that we resolve this as well, and I would also recommend that we go as quickly as we can to have these meetings so that we can resolve this problem. And thank you very much for your efforts.
I certainly don't write headlines, but to me, this is a headline. I think it's a substantial step. It shows that we are trying to be good citizens, Mayor Hebron, and I think it's the right thing to do, and it's a step in the right direction. And I also commend the mayor on showing his diligence in getting this done, and I'm excited about giving the public a chance to participate in it and bring it to some conclusion.
As long as we don't lose any money. I move we adjourn.
after-schools program